We're going live. Do it live. YouTube says you're live. Live from the mines deep in the heart of Texas. Let's do this. We can do this. Just a second. Bam. Boom. Ding dong, the witch is dead. The witch is dead. The witch is dead. That is simply insane. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Matthew in real life and Blind Run on the internet. And today we're going to be talking about Monero basically shutting down the largest pool, mining pool for Monero, shutting down, why they're doing that and what the alternative is. Then we're going to be talking about the Nomad hack that started taking place, or basically yesterday, after yesterday's show, and what all happened there. $200 million in exploits, and that was covered by multiple outlets, so we have a couple different perspectives to take on that. We're also going to be taking a look at Celsius Network custody clients tap lawyer to reclaim $180 million. And Marathon doubles the loan borrowing capacity to $200 million as mining rigs sit idle. Let's get into all of that, including the mining profitability and more, right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. And welcome back, everybody. So first things first, a little bit of hardware news. Intel Core i9-13900K Raptor Lake 24-core CPU overclocked to 6.1 gigahertz. Now, yesterday we took a look at the 13700K overclocked to 6 gigahertz. And now we have the 13900K overclocking to 6.1 gigahertz. It looks like CPU-wise, we've broke the 6 gigahertz barrier, and that is awesome. Now, obviously, all core is going to be a little bit different. In this particular case, it's 5.5 gigahertz all core. In the 5.5 gigahertz all core benchmarks beats the Threadripper 2990X by 30%. More and more Intel i9-13900K Raptor Lake flagship CPU benchmarks are leaking out. And this time we get to see the chip's full power within Cinebench. The latest overclocked performance benchmarks were published by Chinese Baidu forum member Zai Shun. I think that's how we pronounce it. In the benchmarks, we can once again see the i9-13900K ES2 CPU sample that has been doing that rounds on the internet. I think the rounds is what he meant to say. We also saw the i7-13700K overclocked to 6 gigahertz yesterday. But we're not only getting another overclock record, but we also get to see the 13900K's all-core overclock performance potential. The Intel i7-13700K will be the fastest 13th gen Core i7 chip on offer with the Raptor Lake CPU lineup. The chip features a total of 16 cores and 24 threads. This configuration is made possible with 8 P cores P cores standing for performance cores on the Raptor Cove architecture, and 8 E cores, E cores standing for efficiency cores, based on the Gracemont core architecture. The CPU comes with 30 megabytes of L3 cache and 24 megabytes of L2 cache for a total combined 54 megabytes of cache. The chip was running at base clock of 3.4 gigahertz and a boost clock of 5.4 gigahertz. Ooh, excuse me. We had a little burp there. The all-core boost is rated at 5.3 gigahertz for the P cores, while the E cores feature a base clock of 3.4 gigahertz and a boost clock of 4.3 gigahertz. So if we scroll down, like we've talked about this before, we are getting some more cache, which could be good potential for some algorithms, but I think Ryzen's still going to be ahead of the game as far as CPU mining. According to the leaker, the latest benchmarks were done with all cores enabled. The Raptor Cove P cores were running at an all-core frequency of 5.5 gigahertz, while the E cores were running at an all-core frequency of 4.3 gigahertz. The CPU was running with the voltage of 1.3 volts, and it stated that the max ring frequency was around 4 gigahertz. The 5.5 gigahertz CPU mentioned before is the single core limit out of the box, so having all the cores running at 5.5 gigahertz will definitely result in much higher power draw. We have been told the i9-13900K CPU has a power consumption of around 350 watts, and while it runs really hot, high-end air coolers will have no trouble in taming the chip at its full load. It should also be mentioned that this particular overclock was once again done on a high-end cooler, Liquid AIO. AIO standing for all-in-one, so not custom cooling, and doesn't involve exquisite cooling setups such as LN2 or chillers. So coming to the performance numbers, we have the CPU-Z where the chip scores 16,605.6 points in the multi-threaded test and 879 points in the single core. This is lower than the 6 gigahertz benchmark since the cores are running at a fixed 5.5 gigahertz clock speed. Wow. That's beating like everything. The real deal is the Cinebench R23 benchmark, which shows a multi-threaded score of 39,365 points. This is a 43% improvement over the Intel Core i9-12900K. We also use some Cinebench R23 performance figures of AMD's Ryzen Threadripper chips from Puget Systems database, and it looks like the Raptor Lake i9-13900K from Intel would more or less match the Threadripper 5965WX, which also features 24 cores, but a total of 48 threads, which is 50% more threads than the 13900K. The CPU beats the 32-core 64-thread 2990X by 30%, and it also comes real close to the Threadripper 3975WX 32-core 64-thread chip, which is very impressive. Do note that the Ryzen Threadripper chips have a higher base TDP of 280 watts to work with. So there are all the scores, and the 3900K is slotted in right here at 5 gigahertz. Or 5.5 gigahertz on the all-core, basically getting really, really close to workstation chips from AMD. But like I said, the leaker also achieved a new overclock record with the 13900K, while the Raptor Lake 13700K was pushed to 6 gigahertz. The flagship was pushed to 6.1 gigahertz across all the performance cores. That's pretty crazy. The leaker reports that the single-core CPU-Z score was above 1,000 points. There are also the 5.5 gigahertz all-core numbers in CPU-Z, which show a 27% performance improvement over the stock chip, a 42% improvement over the 12900K, and a 40% improvement over the 5950X. The single-core score at 6 gigahertz is slightly lower because there were some apps running in the back, but it should be around the same 980 to 990 points as the 13700K 6 gigahertz score we saw yesterday. More charts. Overall, this looks to be some mighty good multi-core performance for the upcoming Raptor Lake chips. We still want to wait for some detailed power and temperature figures, but one thing is for sure, in MT task or multi-threaded task, Raptor Lake might give AMD's Raphael a hard time. The Intel 13th Gen Raptor Lake desktop CPUs, including the flagship Core i9-13900K, is expected to launch in October on the Z790 platform. The CPUs will be going up against AMD Ryzen 7000 CPU lineup, which also launches in the fall. My understanding too is that there will be compatibility with the Z690, which is what I'm hoping for, because I just want to do a CPU upgrade and not be purchasing another motherboard again, because I have the Aorus Master with the 12900K currently. But this is obviously super impressive. As far as mining, the cache is still not going to be there in comparison to Ryzen. So it's not like you're going to be building necessarily CPU mining rigs with these from the mining perspective. There are, of course, specific algorithms that do perform well on Intel, like Varus coin, for example. So, and Varus hash is the algorithm for that. They could perform very well in that, but that's yet to be seen. Now, we have a new proposal from, let me see if I can pull this up. A new proposal from ErgoDex, and this is ErgoDex Catalyst F9. So I'm going to try to get the FAQ up here so you guys get an idea of what it is. There is essentially this right here. For the kind of quick links, the link tree is down below. It includes, of course, the community discussion over it, and then the proposal, and then we have here just a quick Catalyst FAQ. So there will be like a vote for this if you guys want to vote on it. And then the registration availability, it says currently open until snapshot. Registration ends on August 4th for Fund 9. So eligibility is wallets with 500 plus Cardano, excluding rewards, are eligible to vote. Wallets need to be delegated, and for CLI generated wallets, the stake key needs to be registered. So what is the goal of Project Catalyst? Create, fund, and deliver the future of Cardano. Project Catalyst is an experiment in community innovation, providing a framework to turn ideas into impactful real-world projects. You can read more here at Idea Scale, it says, and in their Telegram announcements channel. And there are some, let's see if there's some stuff here that we could figure out. So it's going to affect the Daedalus mainnet, the Yori mobile, all of these different tools, as well as wallets. I really wanted to get into, and I thought I had it pulled up, but maybe I'm on the wrong page. Let's see if it was this one. So this should be the one. We created this proposal with the research and development purpose of the Layer 2 DeFi scaling solution that will solve cross-chain interoperability problems for developers and throughput and transaction fees problems for the DeFi application end users. We call it Spectrum Network. Let's talk about everything in order. So the current state of DeFi. Why is this relevant? Because this does affect interoperability between Cardano and Ergo specifically. I wanted to make that clear. What we are talking about is the cross-chain solutions for Cardano and Ergo. The reason why ErgoDex is having us vote on this in particular, or bringing it up, is because it does affect, of course, ErgoDex, because they would be utilizing or participating within this layer to make it functional for the bridge from Cardano to Ergo. That's my understanding. So classical DeFi applications such as Uniswap, Compound, etc. have shown promising results in regards to features and decentralization, but also revealed essential limitations of the approach which must present dApps are built upon. These limitations fall into two categories: poor user experience and poor capital efficiency. Some examples of the features that fall into the poor user experience would be long confirmation times and sometimes extremely high fees. And as for poor capital efficiency, this would be non-optimal prices, arbitrage, and minor extractable value, MEV. All the things that slowly siphon users' profiles. These issues are being addressed by developers of existing or classic layer 1 based dApps to some extent, but the old approaches are limited in what can be done. The most popular type of DeFi applications that are similar to Uniswap and Ergo Address are built directly on layer 1 blockchain. So classical DeFi protocol ties the performance of the dApp to the performance of layer 1 blockchain, for example, Ethereum, Cardano, or Ergo. Let's not forget the decentralized blockchains are maintained by thousands of nodes, which all have to run the same computations in order to confirm that the transaction is correct. This leads to the fact that the execution of complex smart contracts takes a long time, especially if the network is congested. 2, limited by the liquidity of the parent blockchain. At the moment, this problem is partially solved with the help of synthetic assets, but such a solution does not allow direct access to the liquidity of other networks. And 3, does not allow you to swap native currency in decentralized and native manner. For example, to transfer your liquidity from ETH to ADA, you have to use centralized exchanges to reach your goal. 2, cross-chain decentralized finance is a novel approach aiming to solve the above issues. Rather than committing to a concrete single layer 1 blockchain, cross-chain solution abstract across several layer 1 networks with a focus on interoperability and cross-chain liquidity aggregation. True cross-chain DeFi is impossible without a solid layer 2 solution that allows us to 1, offload the burden of expensive transaction validation from layer 1s, and 2, validate cross-chain transactions faster and cheaper than other designs. In order to implement a cross-chain solution, an interoperability layer is required. The problem of cross-chain interoperability can be reduced by transferring data among multiple blockchains. There are already a few existing solutions in the field. Let's look at them and see why they are not satisfactory for cross-chain DeFi. Custodial solution, trusted oracle. Cross-chain interoperability could be achieved with the trusted oracle that registers some event on one blockchain and performs the required action on the other. For instance, below is an illustration of a simple cross-chain swap. It's kind of hard to see. Let's zoom in here, and you can see essentially the way they drew this out here for you. The cross-chain solution, Cardano, Ethereum, coming into here. The reads over to Ethereum, over to Solana, over to Ergo. All right. Centralized oracles provide fast and cheap transactions, but lack a key feature, decentralization. The liquidity of protocol built on this approach is custodial, which is a centralized approach similar to CeFi when users deposit their funds to an exchange's wallet. A system is not suitable when it depends on a single party. If the oracle goes down, unfinished swaps can appear frozen halfway. A centralized oracle can censor transactions, and a malicious oracle can perform a man-in-the-middle attack by sending inaccurate data, which is not dissimilar from some stuff we've been seeing here recently. Semi-centralized oracle network. Another approach involves some sort of intermediate network of oracles facilitating the transfer of data among multiple blockchains. Often, all funds transferred between blockchains are stored and distributed on special threshold wallets, which are generated by the participants of the intermediate network. Thus, they are controlled by a group of oracle operators. This means this method is inherently similar to the first one. It is more decentralized but less reliable due to the fact that the POA or POS is used with high collateral and a small, less than 100 number of nodes. This makes it impossible to achieve high decentralization and system security, but at the same time, the system becomes inflexible. XDeFi protocols built on such networks turn into a distributed custodial repository of funds managed by a small group of people. And you can see you have your fixed oracles and then the chains come in. So the next one is Spectrum Network. Spectrum moves beyond the idea of cross-chain data bridges and implements a decentralized protocol for cross-chain computations. This assumes not only the transfer of data, assets, and events, etc., among heterogeneous blockchains, but also computations on this data. Just like smart contracts on regular layer 1 blockchains, but with access to multiple blockchains at once. This also allows us to shift validation of complex DeFi smart contracts from layer 1 blockchains. Data from connected blockchains, transactions, assets, and events is aggregated along with Spectrum transactions into blocks which form a high-order chain. Spectrum transactions are allowed to execute smart contracts that operate on data from the connected blockchain and can trigger on-chain finalization. Spectrum network operates under an optimized roll DPoS consensus protocol, which was used in IoT-oriented blockchains such as where nodes are IoT devices. So the protocol is designed to support a large number of participants. Our contribution to the existing evaluation of roll DPoS introduces COSI, an efficient protocol for collective signing. Replacing the old signature protocol from roll DPS with COSI, we get faster block negotiations from 0n in old roll DPoS to 0 log n, where n is the number of validators. The following properties allow consensus to achieve a high degree of decentralization and security. Decentralized operation of the protocol with a large number of participants, thousands of nodes instead of hundreds, protected from compromise by collusion of a narrow circle of people, low cost of entering the protocol and high cost of compromise, tolerance to high network churn. And here is the rollout for that, so you guys can see what it looks like here. That's the other one. Here we go. So this looks like the same one. Here we go. So you have the leader node, and then it comes down to the recursive proofs. Got it. Okay. Roles in the Spectrum network are randomly assigned to participants via a lottery until the end of the epoch. The honesty of the chosen participants is achieved by economic incentives built on the prisoner's dilemma from game theory, which states that it is more profitable for each participant to betray the attacker and receive a reward rather than join the attacker and incur punishment. Spectrum Network reveals the true potential of Ergo DEX. First of all, it will allow quicker and cheaper transactions. Secondly, it will have cross-chain liquidity and interoperability out of the box. Not only bridges for cross-chain transfers of assets, but truly cross-chain pools for native assets, where on one side is native ADA or Cardano, and on the other side is native ERG for the project Ergo. And finally, Spectrum opens the door for more sophisticated DeFi protocols such as decentralized lending, options vaults, and others, which are impractical to build on top of many layer 1 blockchains due to current design implementations. The code will be 100% open source, so anyone can contribute to the Spectrum network development. Now, this one, like I said, is important because it specifically pertains to Ergo DEX being able to provide that interoperability between Ergo and Cardano. So if you are, invested into the Ergo ecosystem and you've been waiting for this cross-chain collaboration between Ergo and Cardano, specifically on Ergo DEX, you should pay attention to this. Now, obviously, I don't expect everybody to have 400 ADA sitting in their wallet to go participate in the voting. However, if you do, you should go ahead and check out the link tree and get all the information to make sure that you get the registration done before August 4th so that you can be prepared for the voting. Let's go ahead and get into Marathon Digital doubles loan borrowing capacity to 200 million as mining rigs sit idle. So obviously, this pertains to mining, and it's hopefully going to be eye-opening. The firm doubled its credit from Silvergate Bank, even as Marathon's operations are facing severe downtime and delays. Marathon Digital Holdings refinanced an existing $100 million line of credit from Silvergate Bank and added another one of the same size from the same lender, according to a Monday press release, despite having thousands of Bitcoin mining rigs sitting idle. Marathon's ability to refinance stands out because crypto prices have fallen so much this year, putting the company and other Bitcoin miners on shakier financial ground. The lending market has also dramatically cooled down as the Federal Reserve raises the interest rates. The Silvergate credit gives Marathon flexibility to navigate the market volatility. Marathon noted on Monday that it hadn't drawn any of its initial credit line from Silvergate, which was set to expire in October. The two facilities are secured by Bitcoin and will expire in June of 2024. The new term loan includes a delayed draw facility, meaning Marathon can draw $50 million at the time of closing and another $50 million 270 days after closing. The press release said the term loan comes with a variable interest rate, which is currently set at 7.25%, the firm said. When Marathon announced its initial revolving credit facility from Silvergate in October of 2021, its active fleet of miners stood at 25,272. At the end of June, it counted only 6,300 active miners, according to its June operational update. That is a lot of rigs offline. That is a lot of rigs offline. Now, obviously, from October to June, what are we looking at? Heat. And I'm wondering, if their facilities are able to actually dissipate the heat. And funny enough, of course, what's going on here? Well, they're in West Texas. The firm has 29,640 Bitcoin mining rigs waiting energization in West Texas, it said in the update. So they're waiting for power for these in West Texas, but then why do they have a lot less active miners is my question, right? Because apparently these were online. This is largely because hosting firm Compute North energy provider is waiting for federal regulators to approve its tax-exempt status, Marathon said. Compute North hosted about 20,000 of Marathon's machines at the end of June and is set to host 68,000 by the end of Q3. About 4,200 of these rigs were scheduled for activation on April 17th, according to a previous press release. However, Marathon said in July that it secured around 254 megawatts in new hosting agreements, which could increase up to 324 megawatts. That includes 200 megawatts, or about 66,000 mining rigs, signed with Applied Blockchain for sites in Texas and North Dakota. Marathon believes it has now secured ample hosting arrangements to support the company's previously stated goal of approximately 23.3 exahash per second of Bitcoin mining computing power in 2023, the firm said. In addition to the Texas energization delay, about 75% of Marathon's active fleet was left without power after a storm damaged its energy supplier in Hardin, Montana in June. There we go. That's what happened. The approximately 30,000 miners in Hardin were mostly undamaged, Mara said. The ground crew at Hardin continues to make progress as they work to bring the power plant and our miners back online in a reduced capacity, the firm said in its June update. Asked about updates on Texas and Montana on Monday evening, a Marathon Digital Holdings spokesperson pointed to the company's upcoming Q2 earnings and call set to take place on August 8th. The firm may have additional information to share at that time, the spokesperson said. Mara also stands out among the industry as it has yet to sell any of its Bitcoin holdings. Other mining firms have converted their mined Bitcoin to US dollars to fund operations and pay off loans. Last week at the Mining Disrupt conference in Miami, Marathon's CEO Fred Thiel revealed an analysis that showed miners stand to benefit in the long term from selling half of their mined Bitcoin compared to holding all of their production or selling daily. That's interesting. I will definitely have to read that analysis here at some point. Let's get that marked over for a video later. We'll review that for you guys. So what are we seeing? Well, interestingly enough, they were able to get some more capital so they won't have to sell their Bitcoin, but they have a lot of rigs offline due to obviously that power issue where they had the power plant go down. It's not looking good for Mara because that's so many miners offline. I have a feeling on August 8th there's going to be some blowback, from their earnings reports. There's no way at this time that they are staying afloat, especially in June. But, you know, you take out a loan, if you can get that capital, you're probably way better off than most people right now. And being able to hold Bitcoin and wait for, you know, the price to go up more is definitely beneficial, right? So that's kind of the game. As miners, we should have been in a cash position already to try to hold as much cryptocurrency as possible through the bear market. And I've talked to you guys about that before. I think I've failed there, definitely. So hopefully, you know, next time we get it right, we'll just have to make sure that we're paying attention as closely as possible. Celsius Network custody clients tap lawyer to reclaim $180 million. The account holders represent 4% of the assets locked up at the bankrupt crypto lender. Customers who held cryptocurrency in custody accounts at Celsius Network, the bankrupt trading and lending firm, have banded together to hire legal counsel in a bid to get their money back. The custody claimants, who account for about $180 million, or just 4% of the overall assets locked up in Celsius, are enlisting the services of Kyle Ortiz, a partner at the corporate restructuring firm Togut Siegel & Siegel, LLP. This ad hoc group has grown to more than 300 members in the weeks since the first bankruptcy hearing and has raised close to $100,000, the retainer for its legal representation. Everyone is signing engagement letters as we speak and have 93 to 100K committed. I have no doubt we will get there, David Little, one of the organizers of the custody account ad hoc group, said via direct message. We grew our group from just a few individuals to almost 400 in a matter of days and have raised $100,000 with basically a group of competent strangers. An ad hoc group in this context refers to a group of people with common interests in a case who are willing to foot the bill for their own legal representation. Unlike Celsius clients who deposited funds in the company's high-yield earn product, custody clients didn't collect interest. They used Celsius for storage, not to put their money to work. The groups also differ in that the earn users appear to have signed away the title to their crypto assets, according to the firm's terms of service, of course. Whereas custody clients, the title of the assets remains with the wallet holder. The now underway bankruptcy hearings of Celsius, which froze customer accounts in June because of a $1.2 billion hole in its balance sheet, invites a contest among specific claimant types, including regular customers, major institutional creditors, and equity holders. The custody wallet holders were the first to form an ad hoc group in the case. These creditors are worried that Kirkland and Ellis, the law firm hired on Celsius's behalf, may be telling them what they want to hear without doing much to support them, according to Thomas Brazel, the founder of bankruptcy claims specialist 507 Capital. For example, Kirkland could have filed a motion to return their money in fiat currency, as was done for another bankrupt crypto lender, Voyager Digital, where assets were held by a bank. Instead, Kirkland said they were going to file a declaratory judgment. There we go. For the court. I have kids knocking at the door. I gotta go check on them. For the court to decide what to do rather than file a motion to return the assets, Brazel said in an interview. The word going around is that this lip service to claimants that, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Give me 1 second, guys. Once again, I apologize. It's summer. We're almost out of the woods. All right. Anyways, all we really need to know about the Celsius ordeal is that you have two separate, if I understand this correctly, right? You have two separate types of clients, and one is written out of their terms of service to basically get any recourse, because when they added it in, not just holding it in the wallet, but they added it in for the APY return, they essentially signed away their rights to those funds. Well, what is going on here in particular is this is people that have money in their wallets and they are trying to get that back. Will they be successful? I don't know, because I don't know the terms of service for this in particular. You would hope so. Like, clearly they weren't being completely upfront at Celsius with where they were at and how they were generating this amount of return that they were promising to customers. And not your keys, not your wallet, right? So even though you have this Celsius app where you have it in the wallet, which is apparently from a terms of service perspective, better than having it locked up with them in some sort of return mechanism for, of course, DeFi. And I use that term, loosely because it's not decentralized. It's still better to hold your funds in a wallet you control the keys to, because then at that point, this would have never been an issue for these users. There is an amount of personal responsibility that goes along with crypto. And like we've talked about, like, cryptocurrency does offer individuals great power over their finances. And once again, with great power comes great responsibility. So speaking of that, though, we do have more hacks and attacks and stuff going on. In particular, I found this out from Fubar yesterday regarding the Nomad bridge hack. And he did go over essentially what was happening, but we do have a wrap up, I think, on CoinDesk here that's going to make it a little bit more clear. Nomad bridge drained for nearly $200 million in exploits. The exploit calls the security of cross-chain token bridges into question once again. The cross-chain token bridge Nomad was exploited Monday, with attackers draining the protocol of virtually all of its funds. The total value of cryptocurrency lost to the attack totaled near $200 million. Nomad, like other cross-chain bridges, allows users to send and receive tokens between different blockchains. Monday's attack is the latest in a string of highly publicized incidents which have drawn the security of cross-chain bridges into question. Now, I was tying this to of course, what Ergo is doing with Cardano and changing it up. It's kind of funny timing that both of these are coming up right now, because like we were talking about over here with the Spectrum network layer, there were these vulnerabilities that they discussed in particular with these sort of cross-chain bridges as it pertains to DeFi. So Monday's attack is the latest in a string of highly publicized incidents which have drawn the security of cross-chain bridges into question. The Nomad team acknowledged the exploit in a statement to CoinDesk. What is basically going to happen here is probably we're going to see the issue, one of the issues that we were discussing with the Spectrum network, right? So not Spectrum network, but one of their other ones that they were talking about. I think they talked about it here where you end up with a man in the middle attack is essentially one of the things you have to worry about. But an investigation is ongoing, and leading firms for blockchain intelligence and forensics have been retained, the team said. We have notified law enforcement and are working around the clock to address the situation and provide timely updates. Our goal is to identify the accounts involved and to trace and recover the funds. So what happened? Bridges typically work by locking up tokens in a smart contract on one chain and then reissuing those tokens in wrapped form on another chain. If the smart contract where tokens are initially deposited gets sabotaged, as happened in Nomad's case, the wrapped tokens no longer have any backing, which can render them worthless. On Twitter, Sam C. Sun, which we were talking about over here, we had his pulled up. A researcher at crypto investment firm Paradigm explained that a recent update to one of Nomad's smart contracts made it easy for the user to spoof transactions. This meant users were able to withdraw money from the Nomad bridge that didn't actually belong to them. Unlike some bridge attacks where a single culprit is behind the entire exploit, the Nomad attack was a free-for-all. You didn't need to know about Solidity or Merkle trees or anything like that. All you had to do was find a transaction that worked, replace the other person's address with yours, and then rebroadcast it, he explained. Bridge attacks have become more frequent in recent months as crypto users have demonstrated an increased appetite for swapping assets between different blockchains. While cross-chain bridges have made it possible for upstart blockchains to proliferate, bridge failures can be devastating for smaller chains that rely on them for large amounts of their total liquidity, which was the problem we were also talking about that Ergo Address was addressing in the Spectrum network. Evmos, one of the newer blockchains serviced by Nomad, tweeted that it would be brainstorming community solutions to the Nomad attack, given that it significantly impacts initial Evmos, I guess, total value locked. The largest decentralized finance attack in history, April's Ronin bridge attack, saw over $600 million worth of crypto siphoned out of a bridge that powers the blockchain-based game Axie Infinity. Just a few months before that, over $300 million was drained from the Wormhole bridge, wreaking havoc across the Solana blockchain community and the wider decentralized finance ecosystem. Nomad sold investors on the vision that it would be fundamentally more secure than alternative platforms. Just last week, it revealed that crypto heavyweights Coinbase Ventures and OpenSea were among those who participated in an April seed around which they valued the company at $225 million. Case in point here for essentially the Spectrum network. And I think that is really kind of funny how both of these lined up. It worked out perfect for today's show to kind of demonstrate what the problems with DeFi and cross-chain bridges are. And it does mean also that if you're participating in them, you want to be very, very careful when you're swapping funds, etc., because you could end up losing funds. So you want to be extremely careful when you're doing it. It does bring up the question, is it safer right now to avoid cross-chain bridges and utilize centralized exchanges for your moving between networks? For example, like moving between Ethereum and Cardano, or, taking stuff off Uniswap to go put it into PancakeSwap. Is it better to utilize a centralized exchange for now until DeFi cross-chain bridges are really sorted out and the security is figured out on them? I'm curious on y'all's thoughts about that. And I'm just talking about from how you should be interacting with the blockchain on a day-to-day basis right now, because these are kind of exploits that have been taking place quite frequently, and there does need to be a solution. Now, I'm not necessarily smart enough to say that the Spectrum network is a solution coming from Ergo Address, but they are acknowledging the issue, which I find extremely interesting. And they were acknowledging it, before this hack as well. It's not like they used it for publicity. This was posted on the 29th of June, and the Nomad hack happened yesterday on August 1st. So I just want to bring that up, and I think it's super important. There's one big story left, and that's going to be surrounding Monero. And Monero is basically losing its largest mining pool, and that mining pool is minexmr.com. I was notified of this last night on our live stream at twitch.tv/blindrun, and I already, right away, I was kind of like, why? And I pulled up and kind of took a look at what they were saying on the website, and I'm actually in support of this. I think this is better for the Monero network. Honestly, at the end of the day, I do. And we can start to see why when we read the notices. They say, we regret to inform our valued miners that the pool will be closing on August 12th. We thank you for being a part of the pool and your continued support. Please reconfigure miners to use different pools before this date. Any miners that are not updated before August 12th will stop working. So if you're on this pool currently, make sure you're ready to move off. But here's where it gets interesting. It says, we recommend transitioning to the decentralized P2 pool. There are no pool fees when using P2 pool, and the decentralized pool helps support the Monero network. And P2 pool is something that, has been tried to be used like in Bitcoin. Unfortunately, too many selfish miners on Bitcoin for it to really take off. Monero is a really interesting case because the profitability isn't super high, and building a farm out for CPUs, etc., when they seem to be the most efficient, isn't very efficient either. So Monero ends up being this kind of weird outlier case where it seems to be the most distributed, the most secure, and kind of interestingly enough, doesn't make anybody extremely rich from mining it. I really like that idea in general, but one of the issues is, of course, pool hash rate distribution. If we looked at like Monero, for example, on mining pool stats, you'll see here, of course, you have 38% of the known hash rate on MineXMR. But what they're telling people to do at MineXMR is to use P2 pool. And P2 pool actually went live in October this past year of 2021. And I'll give you guys the rundown on it. Essentially, peer-to-peer pool, imagine it like what it enables you to, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this exactly. But like if you guys are, as opposed to everything coming into a single node and then the mining pool processing those transactions out, they're able to still get the same sort of result by distributing at the end of the day for the pool to people based on their hash rate and their shares, but you're not connecting to a single node. That's the best way to explain it. So you don't have that 51% attack risk. But let's get into it here. They'll tell you what is Monero P2 pool. Monero P2 pool is a peer-to-peer Monero mining pool developed from scratch by Sec1. P2 pool combines the advantages of pool and solo mining. You still fully control your Monero node and what it mines, but you get frequent payouts like on a regular pool. So yes, this will have some sort of requirement that you understand how to set up nodes, not dissimilar from P2 pool that Bitcoin tried to push for a while. P2 pool, as a concept, was first developed for the Bitcoin blockchain, but was never fully realized due to certain limitations, mainly because it had the problem with orphaned blocks, which is solved with Monero P2 pool with Uncle blocks. P2 pool has no central server that can be shut down, blocked, because it uses a separate blockchain to merge mine with Monero. There's no pool admin that can control what your hash rate is used for or decide who can mine on the pool and who can't. It's permissionless. All pool blocks pay out to miners immediately because there is no pool wallet. Funds are never in custody. It's trustless. P2 pool uses PPLNS payout scheme, has 0% fee and 0 XMR payout fee. By design, fees can't be added. Everyone in the PPLNS window is rewarded directly via the Coinbase transaction reward. Minimum payout is less than 0.0004 XMR due to the very efficient miner reward transaction format. Each individual miner payout takes only 38 bytes on the Monero blockchain. There has been some worry about mining pool centralization and the possibility of a 51% attack. Since atomic swaps went live, solving exchange delisting and KYC threat, mining is now the most centralized part of the Monero ecosystem. Currently, one pool accounts for 40% of Monero's network hash rate. Which pool was that? MineXMR. To me, it seems like this was all in the making, and I'm actually thinking, to a certain extent, MineXMR is on board with this. And I think that having them come out, the largest pool, and basically say, hey guys, here's P2 pool. It's working. We're going to shut down the largest XMR mining pool. And that's in favor of decentralization. And from the miner's perspective, you're paying no fees and you're decentralizing the network even further. To me, this is a win-win-win-win-win. P2Pool is a side chain to Monero, and P2Pool blocks are potentially Monero blocks. Each miner submits block templates that include a payout for all the miners that currently have shares in the PPLNS window. High quality block templates are added to the P2Pool blockchain as blocks which count as shares for the miners who found them. If a block is good enough to be a Monero block, it is also submitted to the Monero network to be included in its blockchain. Once the Monero block is confirmed by the network, these miners are directly paid in the Coinbase transaction because they were included already in the block. If P2Pool shares are found at the same block height as an existing share, it is included as an uncle block worth 20% less than a normal share. So you can still get paid for it. Uncle blocks can be submitted up to 3 blocks behind the current height and still be included. Decentralized. So here's the features. Decentralized. No central server that can be shut down or blocked. Permissionless. There's no one who can decide who can mine on the pool and who can't. Trustless. There is no pool wallet. Funds are never in custody. All pool blocks pay out miners immediately. PPLNS payout scheme, 0% fee and no payout fee. Less than 0.0004 XMR minimum payout. Fast block times down to 1 second. Uncle blocks are supported to avoid orphans. All your shares will be accounted for. Advanced mempool picking algorithm. It creates blocks with better reward than what Monero D solo mining does. Password protected private pools and configurable PPLNS window size. There's literally no downside here. And I know like a lot of people are like freaking out about Mine XMR shutting down. They were worried about Monero in some form or fashion. No, this is good for Monero. I want to make that extremely clear. This is good for Monero. And I would probably even go as far to say that Mine XMR as a pool was probably looking at this from the a larger perspective of Monero. Fully decentralizing, getting rid of fees. All of these things are extremely important on a blockchain. And this will be the first time that anybody's actually gotten P2Pool to work at this level, or has already, clearly. We'll have to talk about how to do it at some point. So you guys let me know if you want a how to mine to P2Pool and check that out. There's basically a P2Pool download, and then you can set up like, my understanding is that there will be like a separate node, but I'll go through all the steps probably maybe tonight on the live stream at twitch.tv/blindrun. Let's get into mining profitability right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. All right, welcome back, everybody. So first things first, let's get into my Hive on dashboard. It's not looking as good. Yesterday, though, we did have a payout of 0.069. Right now, 4.21. That is 11 rigs online. I do have a couple offline, or not offline, but on a different pool. We're doing the video for Ergo Smart Pools for ErgoPad. That's going to be coming out at 6 p.m. today. So I did that guide for you guys, and included in that guide is a giveaway. And there's going to be another guide coming out this week with another giveaway. So if you're interested in that, definitely stay tuned to the channel. We have lots of giveaways coming. The profitability on Ergo right now, not that great, right? I think like 2.3 ERG for the last 24 hours. Let's see, where's this? If we click here, yeah, earnings was like, well, we get plus the Ergo pad. It gets a little confusing, but it's really only 10% from Ergo pad. So we've gotten 2 payouts so far. I guess, did I start on the 31st? I don't remember starting on the 31st. We started it up yesterday. So the time seemed to be off as far as this goes. Anyways, we'll be looking into more of like, we'll determine how this works out for you guys a little bit later. As far as like, I'm obviously doing the research, but the guide for how to do it will be out. I think we've made 16 Ergo pad and maybe like 2, well, yeah, and then like 2.3 Erg. Actually, exactly is what the wallet's showing as I check it. So this number is just the Ergo we're getting paid out, and then for whatever reason we're also still getting the Ergo pad, which we got 16 Ergo pad in the wallet since we started mining it yesterday. We are seeing an expected earnings pretty low here at $96 US, but yesterday was pretty good. We've had that pump in Ethereum, which is definitely helping the farm out. I'm going to have to go take a look at some of the rigs because we should be closer to 4.5 gigahash a second. So something happened last night, I'm pretty sure, and I'll get that figured out. Let's take a look at what to mine for the RTX 3090 with corrected ZIL hash and ProgPal hash rates. We have, let's go ahead and calculate that out. We have Ethereum in first place at $293 a day in revenue and $217 a day after power. Ravencoin at $289 a day in revenue and $2.10 a day after power. We have Firo at $272 a day in revenue and $1.98 a day after power. We have Neoxa at $270 a day in revenue and $1.91 a day after power. We have Cero at $253 a day in revenue and $1.74 a day after power. Conflux at $251 a day in revenue and $1.72 a day after power. Ethereum Classic at $243 a day in revenue and $1.66 a day after power. Flux at $235 a day in revenue and $1.65 a day after power. And we scroll down, we have Ergo at $1.80 a day in revenue and $1.18 a day after power. We have Ubeak actually kind of beating it out in revenue, but losing after power because Ergo is pretty power efficient as far as all that goes. So we already looked at Monero and the hash rates. The big deal here is, of course, on August 12th, MineXMR will be shut down. If you are mining Monero on MineXMR and you're going to turn off when they shut down, please don't just change to Nanopool. Please don't. Learn how to use P2Pool. You'll have 0 fees. Uncles are still included. All of that is very relevant. Let's take a look at Bitcoin, though, the big daddy, and see if there's been any hash rate changes. It went up from yesterday about 2 exahash, so it's at 235 exahash a second. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum is at 952 terahash a second. It is actually up about 10 terahash a second, interestingly enough. Ethereum Classic is at 31 terahash a second. It hasn't dropped down since its price pump, which is positive news. I was expecting it, especially after today, looking at these charts, I was kind of expecting Ethereum Classic to start losing some hash rate again, but it's holding steady at that 31 terahash a second. So that is pretty cool. Take a look at Flux. We're expecting 1 mega solution a second. It's up about 0.1 mega solution a second. So from 1 to 1.14 from yesterday. And Ravencoin, around what, 24 terahash a second, something like that, or I mean 2.4, yeah, 2.4 terahash a second on Ravencoin. And then we got Ergo, expecting around 10, yeah, 10 terahash a second, so no real changes on Ergo either. So there you go, guys. That is the rundown for all of the pools and their changes, or not the pools, but the networks and their changes in hash rate. No real changes. Let's talk about mining pool profitability for the past 90 days. ZET in first, Ethermine in second, Crazy Pool in third. For the last 60 days, we have the same rankings. For the last 30 days, Mining Pool Hub moves into first with F2 Pool in second and Nano Pool in third. For the last 21 days, we have Nano Pool in first, Mining Pool Hub in second, ZET in third. For the last 14 days, we have ZET in first, Nano Pool in second, Hivon Pool in third. For the last 7 days, we have ZET in first, Nano Pool in second, Hivon in third. For the last 3 days, Nano Pool in first, Hivon in second, F2 Pool in third. For the last day, Hivon Pool in first, Nano Pool in second, ZET in third. ASIC miner profitability, we have the Antminer E9 still at the top, making $61.11 a day. Antminer L7 at $29.70 a day. The KD6 at $18.86 a day, and the KD5 at $11.83 a day. If we scroll down to the S19 Pro, it's at $5.29 a day on Digibyte, so it is up a little bit thanks to Digibyte. Let's get into questions and answers for the day. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated. First to be read because they're the easiest to read. If you have a question directly for me, make sure you tag @sonofatech so it highlights the message orange, making it easier for me to read. And that is really all the goodness behind it. All right. Questions. Do you guys have any today? You got about 10 minutes for questions. I don't know what HEC is, J Rose. Colton says, Ask Sonofatech, I'm noticing GPU prices have started to rise slightly again. Well, if we want to be honest about that, it's probably going to be because of the uncertainty surrounding China and this Nancy Pelosi visit. Possibly. Among other things, including shortages, etc. But I don't know if I've noticed it really, because I haven't been looking at them much. The ASIC miners are still coming down in price. Coastal Crypto Mining has listed some GPUs as well now. But I think their prices are pretty high. The 3060 Ti for $577 at Coastal. 3060 for $499. I think you can still get some better deals GPU wise. Probably stick with them for ASICs though. You got a 6800 for $1,000, but I think you can get 6800 XTs for cheaper. They got 6700 XT for $645. And I know that they are getting retail prices. They are a distributor now, so I know these are new cards. I do probably want to talk to them because these are recently listed and see what the actual BOM cost is going on here. Scott says, Ask Sonofatech, with all this cross-chain talk, why aren't more chains looking to replicate what XMR has done with Bitcoin atomic swaps? I don't know. I think the cross-chain implementation problem comes into play when we're talking about assets on top of the chain. So I think technically it's different from that perspective. Does that make sense? But I'm speaking out of turn because I really have to do some more research on specifically atomic swaps and what their capabilities would be. What we are looking at with, like, for example, what Ergo Address is trying to do and get past with Spectrum Network is to solve it with a layer 2 solution, right? And then stop that man in the middle attack. Because really, what's primarily happening is man in the middle attacks is what it appears to be between the two contracts. And then from there, of course, further decentralizing some of the other portions of it. Talon says, ask Tech if you had to choose between a 3060 or a 6700 non-XT for about the same price, which would you choose? I mean, with the merge coming up, probably the 3060. You just have more options on the 3060. But for the same price, I don't know. I'd have to go to what to mine, right? And then we'd have to like click in here and like look. But even what to mine's not going to give me the right. I don't think they're going to give me the correct. I mean, this is the XT, but they're not going to give me. Like, I know it does better on Kapal than it says it does. I know it does better on ProgPal and Fear of Proof of Work than it says it does. So, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, the only thing you get out of the 3060 that I would bring up that is relevant is that it is good at flux, better at flux. Theoretically, I've had pretty good performance though with flux on the 6000 series too, though. It hasn't been that bad. Gabe says, ask Tech on Crazy Pool, what does changing the network off of mainnet do? You're still mining ETH and getting paid out in a token? Yeah, so I have a guide on that, but it's just like Ethermine. So you are just getting paid in wrapped ETH on the Binance Smart Chain or on the Polygon network. If you're liquidating and you're sending to like crypto.com, for example, it'll just show up as Ethereum in crypto.com, which makes it very nice. Because then you can swap that ETH for whatever you want and then shoot that back out. It reduces fees and allows you to get paid out daily. So those are the benefits of it. Downside of it would be if you sent it to like MetaMask and then you wanted to convert it to ETH, you would pay fees on the bridge, and then you're also bridging. And right now, bridging appears to be extremely risky. Rad says, ask Tech, I've been away on vacation for a few days. Hope you had a good, relaxing vacation, Rad. What are your quick recap thoughts on Ergo Pad Smart Pool? So, they seem to have gotten it a little jacked up initially. So the way it works is you actually get paid out in Ergo. So it's a little bit different than Aneta. The rundown is that you get paid 90% of the block reward in Ergo and you get paid 11% in the block reward in Ergo Pad. What that means is that you're getting only an additional 1% of Ergo Pad in addition to the 100% of the block reward. So you're getting paid 101%. The thing about it is that there was a fee for smart pools on GetBlock that was 2%. So when it first started, the unfortunate problem ended up being that you actually earned less than mining Ergo directly to GetBlock, because the GetBlock pool for just Ergo is 1%. Once you go into their smart pool, then it adds another 2%, being 3%. And so what you ended up seeing is that you were earning 1% less mining on the Ergo Pad Smart Pool, even with the Ergo Pad that you're getting paid out, than you were if you're mining Ergo directly. This will all be covered in tonight's video, so definitely be ready to go check that out. What you ended up having, though, is that Ergo Pad compensated this by adding another 2% of Ergo Pad to the payout, so you're still getting 101%. This was just a little snafu that happened there. What ErgoPad is trying to do is very safely get people into the ecosystem without tanking the token. And I think that's the smart approach, because what we saw with Aneta, unfortunately, if we're just being completely honest, and I did it too, miners were liquidating the Neta very quickly, right? And the reason they were doing this is because obviously the profitability, especially at the time when a Neta was released, was very low on everything and people were just trying to survive. XDX says, ask Son of Tech, it's NVIDIA located in Taiwan or just the chips to manufacture them? So Taiwan controls 50%. I looked at this last night. It was 57%, 56%, somewhere between like 53 and 57% of the total silicon production for the entire world. So if we're talking about like a GPU manufacturing, we're not necessarily saying like all of NVIDIA is being manufactured there, but all the silicon that needs to go into the chips, definitely a majority of it is being manufactured there. This is obviously an issue when we're talking about ramping up wartime, basically getting very close to there in that area. And it could end up being a situation where it does cause a silicon shortage regardless of crypto mining profitability, etc. What that would mean though, potentially, is if you held on to your silicon, you'll be in a pretty good spot. Because once again, like I always say, I hodl silicon. In fact, I still want to make that a t-shirt, but it is definitely a possibility that we end up with a shortage if there ends up being conflict in the area. Scott Schultz says, just seems like P2P is the solution. I think P2P is the solution for sure. I like it for, well, the solution for decentralizing mining or proof of work. I think it's the solution to further decentralize proof of work. Like proof of work is already more decentralized than proof of stake, but then if you added P2P on top of that, I think it's just next level, right? And like I said, like there's this weird, I love Monero. Like from a mining perspective, I know that I'm not going to make like a lot of money, but like from a principled, like fundamental standpoint, like I like Monero. I think Monero is the way to go because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be all about making money, right? Like it should be about fair distribution as much as possible. And kind of the way Monero is structured ends up pushing it in that direction. And with P2Pool, it just gets that much better. DM Mining says, Ask Summit Tech, have you ever used Zpool to profit switch between same algorithm but different coins? If so, is it stable on rigs? Yeah, it's pretty stable. I haven't done it in a long time. When they first launched it, I did it and it worked pretty good. I haven't ever had, even switching algorithms, you know, as long as the algorithms are similar, i.e. like both memory intensive or both core intensive and you have similar overclocks, they're not too bad either. Digital Fortress Mining says money is cool, but freedom and privacy is cooler. I agree. All right, it's 11:01. I'm going to head to jiu-jitsu and get these kids wrangled up, and then we're going to do some family stuff. I got a video tonight coming out at 6. I'm going to try to get another video recorded today. Then we'll be live on twitch.tv/blindrun this evening around 10 p.m. Central Time, where I have a few things I want to work on. One of the things I want to work on is overclocking the Gold Shell X5. So maybe we'll be taking a look at that. I'm also going to be going back out to the farm and seeing if I can get this S19J Pro back online, but it's too hot. And check out that vlog that we posted yesterday. Thanks everybody for all the support. Probably needed to have a more clickbait title, but it is what it is. I also messed up the time and we marked it so people probably have notifications for 9:45 tonight, which would be silly, but we will be live on Twitch around that same time. So there you go. Hit that like. I'd like to hit 100 likes if we could, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.